JB here. Let's see. I think I have the audio on. Maybe not. Why is it doing that? Sorry about that, folks. Hope everyone's doing outstanding. April 24th, Thursday, 3:05 on this a fine afternoon. Talk really quick about the market. Some names I'm looking at go from there. S&P was up about 2% just a minute ago, off the highs, but still up 1.86%. Just another strong day. Be what, three sessions in a row to the upside. Seemed like Monday at 2 o'clock. That was it. Market was going to roll to new lows, break that 481 on the SPY, and then that was it. And then it's just been up and to the right ever since. Not much in the way of catalysts today, right? So. Um, Yesterday was PMI in the morning. Uh, you know, After the close today, we get Intel and Google. Outside of not much, there were some Trump comments, but nothing really related too much. But one of them was, "We'll have no problem with Norway on trade." It was like, yeah, that's what's on everybody's mind is Norway, right? I mean, I think they do like $2 billion in exports, and probably we export two. Well, the U.S. exports 2 or 3 billion to them, some maybe more than that. But it's like Amazon does that like in a revenue in one day. So I mean, it's like we're not worried about that, you know. We're worried about the. I mean, don't get me wrong, not worried about it. I would like to see everybody win, be beneficial. Trade should be beneficial for everybody, right? But all right, so that's that's kind of today, and just strong action back up to those highs from yesterday, and then I was talking about 547. So 547 was that low. Well, the gap. So we had the Wednesday tariff news, and that was where the SPY opened on that Thursday. So that was a key spot. Sure enough, we just came up to 546.90, and that was the wall. So I don't know if we'll break that here today. I was saying it yesterday and today, 530 and 547. I figured we'd chop between that. We almost got to 530. Now we got up to 547. Maybe we'll chop around here tomorrow. And hopefully we get some kind of news. It's going to be India. I'm sure that'll be the first, shoot a drop, I guess you would say. And then there's got to be something with China, right? I mean, it's got to happen. Otherwise, all the move this week is not going to matter, right? Um, Finally today, also take a look at the amount of stocks trading over there. 200-day moving average on the SPY, the S&P, finally upward, right? Yesterday, despite the rally, not much in the way of upward movement. Today, getting closer to almost, well, I mean, it's 35%, but a far cry from under 20% just a couple weeks ago. So uh, good signs there. I'm surprised Bitcoin is actually flat here today. Uh, Yields are lower, so that's all well and good. And then you look at the U.S. dollar. Well, it's green. It's off the highs, but I mean, all these stories, and not stories, but the potential. I won't call them swan events, but yeah, I mean, if folks start fleeing U.S. Treasuries and U.S. dollar gets weaker, it doesn't bode well, right? Everything becomes more expensive if the U.S. dollar drops, at least if you're importing, and then you're already dealing with tariffs, right? So, I mean, U.S. dollar's off over 10% so far this year, so that's already means if you're importing something, it's 10% more expensive depending on the currency pair and what have you. And then uh I mean, then the tariffs. So it's like a double whammy. So hopefully some of this stuff resolves. And then, like I keep saying, I've been saying it this week, we get an environment where you can start looking a little further out on some of these names, some growth names, right? Because growth is hard to come by when we're in a recession, right? So if we don't hit a recession, I still, I'm on the side of, hey, I don't think the U.S. economy is going to fall in the recession just yet. Uh, then I think that bodes well. But the longer this goes, the odds, the probabilities that the U.S. falls into recession certainly increase. And then also, I mean, everybody thinks we're in a recession right now. It's just the economic data continues to be strong. The Market Watch had another quote. What was it? I think it was the person who said the market has to drop 40% more before the rally, or maybe they called the downturn a correction in December, right? But then you read his comments and he's like, "Oh yeah, we saw weaker economic data. That's how we made our forecast." I'm like, the data's been strong. The only weak data has been the soft data, the surveys, right? Consumer confidence. All right, rants for other days. So hopefully get some playable ranges. The good thing about Thursdays and Fridays, premiums start to come out of the calls and puts, which is good if you don't have a position, right? So it makes further out on money strikes much less expensive. So hopefully there'll be some more opportunities tomorrow. The last couple weeks on Friday, I've been a little more aggressive than I've been over the last couple months. So that'll probably continue tomorrow. Um, and then hopefully there's some tradable plays. All right, so now individual names. So of course, first I'll talk about Reddit and just what a monster. In hindsight, yes, yesterday when I started locking in some of the calls, I probably should have went out and got strikes into next week. But again, you don't. I keep saying you could be up, market could be up 3% tomorrow, and it could be down 3% tomorrow, and none of those outcomes would surprise me, right? Uh, so in lieu of that, I put on the watch list this morning. I was going to hold the rest of my Reddit calls into the close, and then possibly, and then Google, if it has a decent report, you would think that Reddit would run up in sympathy. Although, I mean, it should probably run up anyway if the market's green, but considering Google's whatever 70 whatever percent of their business is ad driven, right? So, and here's Reddit is pretty much an ad driven company, although they're selling their data too. You would have to think that bode well. But then I was looking at it, I'm like, might as well just lock the rest in. They were up like 1,400%, so I closed the rest out of the 105s, and then I went out and I'm like, let me just use some of that and get some 120s. I mean, that made the best sense to me. I was looking at further out into next week, but um, who knows what happens over the weekend. So I'd rather get a very inexpensive spec lotto call, and if it plays out, it'll be a multi-bagger, right? So that was kind of the thought process there. I mean, call me crazy. So if you look at Google, uh, there's concerns, right? They're going to get broken up, a monopoly. Oh my gosh. I mean, how many headlines over the years in regards to Google and it getting broken up, or fines, or the euro, the EU. I mean, so many times over the years. Then they watch Google and it would drop. Oh, FTC launches investigation. The Department of Justice launched an investigation. It's like rinse and repeat over the years. And here it is. Finally, they're going to break them up. They're going to make them drop the browser. So the thing that would concern me is AI, right? And when there was concerns around competitive concerns with Google, Bing was coming out, was going to destroy them, and then that never bore fruit, right? And now you look and it's like AI is a serious competitor to the search engine, right? I mean Google's so entrenched, it's very hard for them to be supplanted, but there's definitely things that you can do now that you couldn't do last year or the year before that you kind of bypass the needs for Google. So that's probably further out. I think they report a great quarter, and hopefully they can at least give a little rosy or at least spin on advertising, right? Because all these names out there in the digital space. So I mean, the Reddits. I mean, even I could go as far, the Pinterests, the Snapchats, the Roku's. Uh, I mean, you even go to Amazon now because Amazon has a lot of revenue derived from ad spend. Uh, if Google can kind of spin a little bit that ad spend is not tapered off due to recession concerns or concerns from large customers or what have you, I think that'll bode well for some of these names. So that's kind of the thought process there. I'm not confident enough in Google to trade it, so I'll be on the sidelines. But hopefully, if that happens, I think Reddit trades. I mean, it'll trade north of 115, probably trades into the 120s. Trades, 50-day moving average on Reddit's 130. Do I think it's going to go up $119 tomorrow? If Google's up 10%, Reddit will be up like 15%. So that's kind of the plan there. But also, Google misses and Reddit's back into the low 100s, right? And then those spec lotto calls expire. But rather have them expire at 30 cents getting them as opposed to letting a contract that's up to $7 and watch that just shit the pan. Part of my friends. All right, so that's Reddit. Also Tesla. Uh, you know, 3 strikes, I'm out. 2 strikes so far, right? So I did Tesla calls yesterday. It failed to break that 259. I closed them out for a small gain. Today, I was trying for the same kind of move. It started to bounce. Got to 275s this time instead of 285s. I was going to have a tight leash on them, but it dropped $1 and the premium it's like destroyed. Like someone was just selling the premium. So, I was hoping only to get out for a couple cent loss. I had to, typically, and if you've been in this room community for a long time, I typically don't salvage weekly positions, especially lottos with a day left. It's just not over the years, I don't know how many times where a stock has run up on an upgrade or something on a Friday, and you have some inexpensive lotto calls, and they pay off despite being solidly in the red the day before. I'm not saying deja vu will happen here with Tesla, but that's some of the reason why typically I wouldn't sell them. But I figured I would salvage them and maybe revisit. I don't know if I'm going to revisit just yet. I figured if there was a day to break out, today would be the day. I mean, it's still in the green. It's off the red, red. It did a red to green move, but I'll probably pass and maybe revisit at some other point. So that's Tesla, and then CMG. So this morning at the open, and of course, I picked a name that did well, but it didn't keep the gains. But I was looking at URI, I was looking at Netflix. Netflix was on the watch list the last 2 days, and sure enough, a CMG. I was talking about yesterday afternoon on a rant that if there was a name I played for the call side, just a fundamentally sound company, and a lot of the sell off has been a result of their CEO leaving for Starbucks, right, Brian Nichols. So uh, you figured they were going to report at decent earnings after the close. It was a rough, right? So they beat on EPS, missed on revenues, and then cited concerns around the consumer and slowdowns, and same store sales were negative, but they still forecast full year being mid low single digits, which is kind of what estimates were expected for analysts anyway. So the stock was red in the pre-market, then it turned into the green, and then I was watching. I said this thing might break into the 50s. I was actually looking at weekly strikes, and I go out to next week. I'm like, wow, the 53s are inexpensive on a risk reward basis. Figured if it ran into the low 50s, they're going to be serious multi-baggers. So within about 20 minutes, I was able to close some of my calls out for 100%, cover costs. I'll ride the rest, have plenty of time into next week. Um, you take a look at the chart, and it's 50-day moving average 50.72, and it came all the way up to 50.61. So maybe today's not the day, but maybe tomorrow we get some follow through, gets over that 50-day moving average. I think it could start looking to get up to, you take a look at levels back in April. Start of April is 52, start of March was 54. I can see it getting up there in a couple sessions, especially if the market finds footing or continues to find footing. So those are that's Reddit, CMG, Tesla, Restoration Hardware. I was actually looking to add some calls earlier today, but I'm like, I still have a couple of 195s left. I'll just hold on to those. I wouldn't be surprised. One headline or one update from the company via a stock repurchase or some special divvy or some kind of news, and this thing launches into the low 200s. I was actually looking at strikes for next week, but I'll probably wait till tomorrow. Also, like I've been saying, I'm gonna be more aggressive on Fridays. So it's a couple Fridays in a row. I've done some RH calls. I might do them again tomorrow, so don't be surprised there. But I really like this one. I mean, I keep saying call me crazy on the watch list, but sometimes you gotta be crazy, because if you're not crazy, you don't hold for the big games, right? I'm a big part of options, especially when you're trading, out of the money strikes or weekly options. It's very easy to lose money on a position, right? The Tesla this week. So the the hard part is the hold, right? I mean, so you can make a trade that goes up 100%, and you're like, wow, that's great, and you sell all the 100%. But then when it goes up 500%, you sell that, and then next thing you know, it's 2,000%, and then you missed the big run because you sold out at 500% or 100%. So the hold is always the hard part. So that's why I always say sometimes you got to be crazy. For me, like I look crazy. I look at RH. I'm like, this thing might go up to 225 on news in a matter of a couple days. So that's kind of the thought process why I continue to trade it. I mean, flip side, no news on tariffs, and it goes back down under 150. I don't think that's going to be the outcome, but that's so you can kind of understand my rationale. Other names, First Solar, still looking. Well, I'm still holding the last couple of my 145s. Again, similar to RH, I was looking at some strikes today, but the 142s look interesting. But I'm like, if it goes up, the 145 is going to be green anyway. So earnings next week, I'll just continue to hold those and revisit it post earnings next week. That's First Solar. That's Google. Oh, and then could haves today, right? I mean, it's been a great week. So sometimes when you have a great week, you don't want to get too aggressive because you get overconfident, and then at the end of the week, you lose most or some of your profits because you got cocky, right, or arrogant, or you think you're better than the market, and you just go crazy, right? So this morning I wish I went a little crazy, right? Because I was looking at Netflix, and the 1100s, I was looking post earnings, and at times they were like 60 cents, 50 cents. Here it is, it's 1100 bucks. Those hit 10 bucks earlier today, so 20 bagger on some of them. If you got them at 60, they were 70. Yesterday I think they were 90 cents. Even this morning I think I could have got them at the open, but it spiked. It was 1046 and it spiked because I had my eyes on CMG. And then also today, this morning, you saw the news URI dividend with the earnings, uh, share buyback, and reaffirmed guidance. It was a decent report. And then, I'm watching at the open. It was like 611, and then you start looking. It's not the most liquid option market for the name, so it's tough to find a strike. And I was looking at the 650s, and I think they were like first they were 20 cents by $2. So I guess you can finagle and try and keep upping your order until you get filled. I saw some go through at like 70 cents, 80 cents, a dollar, and then I just passed. And then I was watching CMG, and next thing you know, it's 630. And then I'm looking at some other strikes, and the 650s were 70 cents or dollar somewhere in there. And I passed on those. It goes up to 650. The 670s were 80 cents. So just kicking myself on that one, URI and Netflix. But at least I had the right idea getting the calls, but kind of kicked myself for missing it. The issue with URI, especially on the weekly options, is very hard to get in and out. So it got all the way up to 657. You try to close your position, and then it starts selling off. You right in a matter of seconds, the market maker is just going to take your money, right? They're gonna lower the ask under your ask, and then you're not going to get filled. The bid's going to get whacked, and then next thing you know, instead of selling for $5, you're selling for $2. It's just so. I think that's it here. I'm trying to think of some other things. GameStop, which was looking great at about 11:30, 27.50, back in the red here late in the day. Still like that one. It's just a matter of time before news comes out. And it's funny, you look at the headlines of GameStop, it's like, GameStop is in the green today because of the Switch 2 pre-orders or release or whatever. I'm like, you think it's up because of the Switch? Like what planet are you living on, right? Hey, maybe I'm wrong, right? Gosh, if GameStop traded on the gaming sector and its growth and stuff, you think people are buying GameStop because Switch 2 is going to be popular? I'm sure it is, right? But I mean, how much, all right. Rants for other days. I'm trying to think of some of the other names I was looking at here. Oh, GPCR. I mean, you got VKTX reported earnings after the close yesterday. Not much in the way of updates, and that's trading in the red. But GPCR was chopping around, hit lows at around 230, and then it's just been up and to the right till almost hit $24. It was $24 this morning. I was looking at some other strikes. I'll just continue to be patient here because it hasn't done much. I mean, it's closed green pretty much all week. Just I would like to see it over that 24.19 handle hit last week. So that's it, folks. Let's have a great day. I'll be back on audio later. Rock and roll.